Hello guys, today we're finishing the 3-part series of user multi-tenancy, and we're talking about what to do if you have the same filter of user ID in multiple models. So what if you want projects to be filtered by user ID, tasks, and everything by user ID? You could use a trait for that. More details in this video, and if you want the full course about Laravel multi-tenancy, so user multi-tenancy is just the beginning, then there's team multi-tenancy, invitation system, packages, and multiple database setup. The link to the full course with repository access will be in the description below. Now let's add the same user ID to another model, which is tasks. And for filtering the tasks, we will have two approaches. First, the one that I already mentioned, we have project ID field. So we have tasks project ID, but I also created user ID. So it's your personal choice how to filter, whether to save user ID in all the records, whatever is the relationship, or to use one level higher the relationship, which will be slower to query, but smaller table without user ID. So I will show both approaches. First, I've run the migration for user ID. I've added the same user ID to the tasks table, so we do have user ID. And then to filter that and to add that, we need to add the same scope. So I've added the same thing to the task as we have in the project here. Boot method, self-creating, add global scope. And as a proof that it actually works, we add a new task. We chose the project, something, save the task, and we have 111. And if we refresh, we have both project ID set and user ID set. And if we register as a new user, we shouldn't see the tasks or the projects by other users. Register, tasks empty, projects empty. So that works. But the problem is repeating code. So we have the same structure, absolutely identical in two different models. The better way is traits. So we can copy the same function into a trait class, trait PHP class. You can put it wherever, in app traits or app HTTP traits. I've seen different people do different locations. I will just create app traits folder, and let's call the trait filter by user PHP. That file is a PHP file, but it's not a class, it's a trait. Let's call it filter by user, and inside we just copy and paste the same thing that I've just mentioned. So this PHP Storm auto-suggests to use builder, which is cool, trait filter by user, and then we need to add that trait into both of those models. So task, instead of that method, we will have use filter by user. And now I see this slash, which means that I didn't add the namespace. So in that trait, we need to have namespace of app traits like this, and then we don't need slash here, and we do filter by user, and then it is added on top, and then we don't need the builder here anymore. And same for the project model. Also, we remove that boot, and then we add filter by user here, filter by user, and remove the builder. And let's try if it all works. We add a new project, 333 for example. I see only my own projects, and then add a new task. In the dropdown, again, I see only my own projects, and I see only my tasks. And if again I register as a new user, I shouldn't see any projects or any tasks. Empty, empty. Great, that worked. So whenever you need to add a new model and add user ID logic, filterable logic like this, you need to add user ID field in that migration file manually, but then just add filter by user in the model and it would work automatically. Important notice, that filter where builder works only on Eloquent Builder. For example, if instead of project all, for whatever reason, you use query builder DB facade like DB table projects and then get. So let's comment that out and let's refresh the project list. We refresh. Oh, we have another error that the project isn't Eloquent object. Of course, we need to change that to project ID. So it would work with DB facade. Okay, and now if we refresh, what I wanted to show you is it shows all projects. So my point is, if you do project all, the filter would work, the scope would work, global scope. If you do DB table, it doesn't work with Eloquent. It's a query builder, which doesn't include any scopes. So be careful with that. Finally, alternatively, as I mentioned, if you don't want to filter by user ID, if that is not required and you have another field to filter by, like project ID, for example, here, you don't want user ID in other tables, You can use another scope, individual scope for that particular model, so you wouldn't filter by user. For example, let's comment that out and let's return our boot method. So let's copy it from here, boot, and here, and then in the global scope, that would filter in a different way. So you would need to have, for example, where has, builder where has, relationship of project, tasks project, and then condition, function, query where project user ID equals auth ID. Then you would not use a trade because the code is not repeating anymore. Let's try if it works. So for projects, let's add another project, 444 something, and let's add a task, something, and still we see only our own task. So that filter works without the trade being used. It's your personal preference how to filter. This query takes the relationship, so it is technically slower. So slower to select the data, but faster to insert the data because it doesn't include user ID. In fact, this thing would be deleted in that case. So in general, in short, that's all you need to know about user multi-tenancy, which is a really simple filtering by user. And from now we move on to the next section of the course, which is team multi-tenancy or company multi-tenancy. And we will cover single database approach and multiple database approach with various packages.